Kashyap.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kashyap Lavancha, and this presentation shows my GCF journey and experiences through this internship. So, the first thing I want to talk about is my motivation for coming here. Ever since I was 9 years old, I'd say, I was interested in neurology in the brain because I thought none of the other parts of the body could work without the brain. So I want to see how I can help people as a neurosurgeon. That's what I want to become. But the reason I came to this internship is because I want to understand how cancer screening is performed in rural versus urban areas and here in India, and I want to spread the awareness across Phoenix when we come back to the back home. And if more people understand about this cancer, then more people will probably have early diagnosis of cancer, which prevents more cancers from happening. And I also wanted to see how technology is utilized because Dr. Chinnababu is a robotic surgeon, so I wanted to see how he does it. And so when I heard about all of these different experiences, I was like, I really wanted to come here for that. And I actually did some research about Grace Cancer Foundation before coming here. So GRACE stands for Global Research in Cancer Education, and the Grace Cancer Runs have been conducted since 2017. And the foundation itself they started the idea in 2011, but they actually the inauguration was in 2013. And then like during COVID, we also did many important things like start COVID ICU projects in 2022, and it's mostly spread across the South India, but it's also touched like many different countries as well, 130 countries out of 195. But as you can see, 260 screening camps were conducted all across Andhra Pradesh, and across the entire foundation, 12 million lives have been impacted during 1,560 events. And they've won 6 Guinness World Records, including the largest breast cancer self-screening campaign. And this company was founded based on the research of ClinSync, which was its predecessor. And many patients can receive based on the research done, they researched on chemotherapy, radiation therapy to prevent spreads of cancer if it's surgery, and surgery as well if it's not beneficial because it may hurt the lining of the body. So this is just like a summaries of what we did every day. So the first day I was really excited to come here, and we talked about the introduction and of the foundation, and we talked about our motivation, why did we want to come here, and we learned about the different models like care, cure, and compassion with commitment. And we also talked about how like cancer spreads and how many people get it, because across government schools many people don't learn about hygiene, which is a huge problem. And we scratched the surface about cancer itself to raise awareness about it. And we talked about the mission statement and the visionary Dr. Chinnababu Garu, and we looked at the schedule breakdown of how it would look like. Day 2 was basically just introduction to Neopact Health about the database, and Tenet Health to send to the doctors and get reports back about whether there's cancer, if it's positive or negative. And one helpful part was when Emmanuel came in and he talked about his experiences with us, because it really helped us understand what he did during his longer time. He was here for 2 months, and he also talked about his research, how he did his research with Dr. Krishna Jagaru, and it was really influential for me because I also like wanted to do more research after that moment. And also got the introduction about doing research and the different topics about what we can do. And day 3 was really when we looked at breast cancer and cervical cancer, about the different causes like bad diet, bad tobacco chewing, and about smoking and alcohol consumption, no physical activity, and about the different symptoms, like for example, nipple discharge and breast lumps across the body. We also did the same thing for cervical cancer, like watery discharge and where it spreads and where exactly the location is. And we also looked at how the screening buses looked like. It was just, and how they would go to the rural areas, how they would set up. And we also did a lesson on digital media marketing, about how different companies can make money and try to sell products. So the first big place that we went to was Indoor Cancer Hospital, and some things that we learned there about. We learned about the two scientists, Philip C. Wall and Mansukh C. Wani, and they isolated the two compounds, and those were the first drugs used to fight against cancer, as they saw that when they extracted them from the Brazilian yew trees, that when they saw that the llamas were not getting cancer after testing, they decided to isolate them, and that's what truly started this revolutionary expanse in medicinal chemists eventually started the new field called pharmacology, and then chemotherapy was introduced afterward, where you could inject drugs and it would flow through the lymphatic system, which is where most diseases actually spread. And immunotherapy is an enhancing self-defense system that was also introduced, so that I can identify and tell apart cancer cells from normal cells. And we also learned about multiple myeloma, which is also called Pollar's disease, which is basically the mutation of the plasma cells in the body. And some symptoms of these include fatigue, loss of appetite, and abdominal pain. We also talked about surgical oncology, medical oncology, and radiation oncology, and how all three of them are interconnected with each other. How medical oncology is chemotherapy, surgical oncology is hands-on surgery, and radiation oncology is used with machines like MRI and linear accelerators. And we also saw the linear accelerator there. And I noticed that even though it is not nearly as big as Yashoda, it was making such a big difference for all the people living in those 5 districts in northern Telangana. So even though it isn't as big, it made just as much of a difference. We also saw the operation theaters, we saw the ICU beds, and we also saw the wards that they do chemotherapy in. And when we went mud farming after lunch, the lunch tasted very good because it was from many medicinal herbs and spices that they used. And we looked at different types of plants, like for example sugar cane, and then how people farm in the mud. And he said there was a total of 16 different types of herbs across the, there was one small acre of land dedicated to those herbs, but the total thing is 20 acres. And then there were 28 different types of edibles, not included, like in the garden, and they did not use pesticides or chemicals in them. And it was a really fun experience. We got to analyze those plants and see how they're used anti-cancer. If you eat them, like having a healthy diet to not get cancer. And we also went to Yashoda hospitals, which is basically much more urban. It's in the city. So we watched the live hysterectomy performed by Dr. Chinnababu Garu, and we went to Pi Health afterward, which is a research facility that tests new drugs on patients. And we saw the PET CT scans, MRI, gamma alpha beta imaging. Then we toured all of Yashoda and saw the high cost machines compared to indoor cancer hospital. And there was much more counseling and a lot of more specialization rooms, as well as operation theaters. We also saw how the pathologists examined the body parts after they're cut out from the body, and we specifically saw the uterus that was cut out during Dr. Chinabalugaru's surgery during the hysterectomy, and we could see how they examined it for the cancer and how they send it back to the doctors within 30 minutes. And we finally saw how if surgery won't work and if chemotherapy won't work, then we saw how the much more advanced radiation scans used to go at the heart of it, like in the middle, and just take it out from the beginning. If you can't use a surgery there, they use the rays to get rid of it. And we also got to see, we went to Spersh Hospice in Kajagoda, and we got to understand what is palliative care, which is basically when patients are terminally ill, they have to take palliative care because most treatments aren't working at that time. So then all they can do is just relieve pain and their symptoms. And hospice specifically is if they have a maximum of 6 months time left in their life. Then the different lessons we learned about were the essence of palliative care. What is it? And what do they do there? We also learned about how to communicate with patients, communicating compassionately. We learned about ethics versus morals and what you think is right, what the intention was. And finally, we also learned about bereavement after the patient passes away. We talked about support given to the family. So for the Kamam screening camp, there were more than 188 registrations, which was absolutely amazing to hear. And we saw the screening bus come and set up camp and registration. We learned how the bus sets up and how it's very portable to make a makeshift area and register many people for these types of tests. And they can go to the doctor, the on-site doctor, then they have vitals that they collect. So these are my key takeaways. I have some cancer data here, which is according to the 2022 Global Cancer Statistics by Bray et al. And cancer is the cause for almost 16.8% of deaths and 22.8% of all non-transmissible deaths or diseases around the world. And almost half of the new cancer cases in 2022 originated from Asia. Lung cancer was the most common cancer found during diagnosis, which is 12.4% of all cancers, and is also the leading cancer that causes death. 18.7% of deaths caused by cancer were caused by lung cancer worldwide. And breast cancer was the second most common type of cancer, which was screened for worldwide, 11.6%. And cervical cancer cases have reduced drastically in India, which went from the most common type of cancer to the third most common type of cancer, which is a great news to hear. So the rural area of indoor cancer and the Yashoda area of the urban environment. So the rural may not seem like it has a lot of things going for it, but it does have a lot of pros. The equipment is low cost and it's free for all patients. So in the rural area, patients can get care, like a lot of care from those doctors, whereas in Yashoda, they have more advanced technology, bigger wards, more options and more drugs to choose from, and a bigger facility with more tools. However, the equipment is high cost and it's a for-profit, so many people can't afford the treatment. There's less haptics during robotic surgery, so you can't really feel the texture of the skin, and there's less time because there's more patients there, so the doctor takes less time to look at each patient's report, so they might possibly make a mistake during those reports. So the good thing about indoors, there's more time to look at them, but there's worse screening because the equipment is very old and there's less space to house patients. So these are some key terminology ideas that I took away, the basics of it. So cancer is the uncontrolled division of mutated cells that could happen anywhere in the body other than the hair and nails. And metastasis is the spread of cancer cells through the body because of higher amount of glucose consumption. And there are 4 different stages normally of diagnosis, and this shows that cancer has already progressed to stage 3 80% of cases, which means that when many people realize that, oh, it's my stomach's hurting or I'm having pain in this sort of area, it's already at stage 3 because cancer can go undetected between stages 1 and 2. So terminal cases are usually where the cancer or disease has progressed so far that any amount of medication or surgery cannot help, and that there's almost a guaranteed death later in the future at that stage. So they send people to palliative care to get quality of life over quantity of life, and they also when there's 6 months left, there's specific hospice care, and because the tumor cannot be removed from the body, it's spread across multiple different organs. The coordinations of cancer hospitals that I've noticed is through the surgical, medical, and radiation oncology, and then they use the pathology and radiology to screen for those things and see if the cancer is there. So what I've taken away from all of this is all listed so that we can use these ideas to bring this back into Phoenix. One thing is to create a club with my friends at school to raise the cancer awareness, and eventually the word will travel far across, and it could go across Phoenix. And we could also use social media to start a campaign online to help for Grace Cancer Run to raise money for screening, because each run is essentially one screen for a patient, and this type of presentation can also be shown to officials so that the word can spread faster, and people like owners of certain types of land, we can contact them so that we can use that land for the runs. And we could start by relaying the message to friends and family, and then that will travel across, and then we could finally spread cancer awareness by creating sort of videos and sort of what we experienced from there. And basically that's about it. Thank you. If you have any questions.